What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel and to video 2 of my little 4-part series where I'm talking about some of the film stocks that I shot on a recent trip to Colorado. If you haven't checked out video 1, that is about Lomography's Lomochrome Turquoise, which is a super cool film stock, probably my favorite from the trip. But today, if you haven't already figured it out, we're talking about black and white and Kodak Tri-X 400. So prior to this vacation, my experience with black and white film stocks was pretty much relegated to offerings from Ilford. I had tried out HP5, which I found to be a very, very flexible film stock that I enjoyed shooting, but I did have to do a little bit of work in post-process to get the images to look the way I wanted them to. Then I went and shot a few rolls of their XP2, which is their C41 process black and white, and could have been my inexperience or inability to properly meter the scenes, but all of my images came out very, very contrasty, either black or white. Wasn't really a fan of that. And lastly, I shot through a roll of Kentmere 400, which is a budget line, I believe, from Ilford. And to be honest, I really liked Kentmere. It was very flat and very gray. But you know, you add a little bit of contrast in post-production. It's better to not have enough and be able to add it instead of having too much and trying to subtract it, which is, I've found to be a lot more difficult. So I was trying to find something that was a balance of all of these film stocks that gave me a little bit of grain but not too much, a little bit of contrast but not too much, and maybe just a touch sharper than the HP5. And I had narrowed down my options to either Kodak's Tri-X or T-Max, and since my local camera shop only had Tri-X, I picked up 2 boxes. I shot this roll on the second day of my vacation. I woke up in Amarillo that morning. We were going to start our second leg of the journey up to Colorado, and it had rained pretty heavily the night before, so everything was wet and overcast. So I thought perfect black and white weather. Loaded the roll into my Canon A1. I shot it at box speed. I used the internal light meter that the camera has, and I would say probably 95% of my images came from the 50mm 1.8. First few images I took just outside of Palo Duro Canyon in North Texas, and then kind of strung out the rest of the images until I hit Colorado and West Cliff, where we had our lodging. I tried to take my time and stop anytime I saw something interesting, so you'll see a plethora of different subjects, from abandoned buildings, because there were a ton of them, old gas stations, you know, the cliche film subjects, and then some of our lodging and some of the mountains. But anyways, I'm going to share some images with you, and then I'll bring you back and we'll talk about how I felt about that roll of film and how I plan to use it going forth. So yeah, enjoy. welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. Hope you enjoyed those images. So let's talk about Kodak Tri-X and my experience with this film stock. The scans that I got back from the lab, the base images probably put me closer to a finished product than any of the other black and white film stocks I've used prior. I did have to mess around with the exposure just a little bit, but I think that was just my camera's light meter kind of getting tricked and not metering the scene properly, and me not having enough experience to be aware of situations like that and make the proper adjustments. But I didn't have to mess around with contrast or anything like that. I was really happy with the rendering the Tri-X gave me. While these scans were being sent to the lab, I did have the opportunity to put the second roll of Tri-X through my Nikon FE2. And this time I rated it at 800 and had the lab push it to stop. And those scans I just got back yesterday and they are incredible. Very, very happy with the sharpness, the grain, and the contrast. Very, very minimal post-processing. And I think going forth, for now, Kodak Tri-X 400 pushed to 800 is going to be my black and white film stock of choice. It does kind of limit the environment that you can shoot in because you are shooting at 800 speed, but it gives me the look I am after. So I'm going to share some of those images with you, and that way you can see the difference between the 400 speed with the Canon A1 versus the 800 push to stop on my Nikon FE2. And I guess I'll catch you guys on the next video. We're going to be talking about another Kodak line, this time a very, very popular color line, Portra 160. So I will see you then. Later.